Listen closely, you don't want to miss this. Imagine a secret locked deep under the frozen ice of the Canadian North, hiding a treasure so game-changing that it could kill the massive crude oil trade completely before we get old. Now picture if this silent wind scored quietly by our own. Scientists in the wildest corners of the northern waste holds the code to infinite green power that chooses the supreme ruler of the world market for the next 1,000 years. Since forever, true power meant oil. The might of the U.S., the riches of the Saudi royals, the chaos of the Middle East, all fueled by that dark sludge driving our industrial life since the 1900s. Armies have fought for wells. Wealth has grown and died on barrel costs, and vast lands have staked their fate on the hope that gas stays the master of our power grids for good. That view is crashing down due to a force so huge, so immense in Obsolete, Canada's ground, and so highly critical that it signals the biggest flip in worldwide wealth since we first struck. Fire! Meet helium-3, and Canada just found the richest veins ever known to man. Fields so deep they'd light up our world for eons while turning every rig, every dark mine, and every fuel pipe as ancient as horse buggies. Today we will reveal why this shock means the grave for the oil trade, how it makes Canada the sole energy kingpin of the 21st century, and why foes, titans like the Saudis, Russia, and the Yanks are freaking out as they see their oil-built kingdoms are about to crash to worthless dust. Now, before we expose the fallout of this wild finding, if you dig this scoop on Canada's rise to the throne, blast that like button and join the squad. It funds the deep dives that news networks won't touch, yet will soon flip the world economy upside down. To get why helium-3 kills the oil era, we must grasp why this isotope is the priciest asset on the planet. Helium-3 is the magic juice for fusion, the star power that drives the sun and is the ultimate dream for green energy. Forget old fission with its toxic sludge and meltdown nightmares. Fusion yields zero long-term waste, zero fumes, and zero chance of blowing up. Just 1 single kilogram of helium-3 packs the punch of roughly 20 million kilograms of coal or 15 million liters of gas. The density is so wild that a single pickup truck load could keep the whole United States running for a full year. It is totally clean, totally safe, and renewable since the tech creates zero smog or nasties. But here is the massive catch that makes this find a strategic game changer. Helium-3 is insanely scarce on our planet. Solar winds make it, but our magnetic shield blocks nearly all of it from getting in. This rarity turns the discovery into a global chess move. While the sun blasts it out constantly, the Earth's natural defense grid keeps the prize out of hitting the air. The tiny helium-3 found here on Earth was trapped deep in rock vaults for eons of time, making it truly hopeless to mine in vital amounts. This lack is why atom merging stays a dream power prize despite ages of work and billions in cash burned up. The pros have actually sparked star power inside controlled labs, yet the void of enough helium-3 gas halted the rise of retail fusion. Energy hubs that could fight cash-wise with dirty oil power grids. Canada's find flips the whole script. Rock scans run in Mackenzie Zone, the Beaufort Belt, and bits of the icy islands have found helium, 3 rich pockets that are leagues vaster than anything ever dug up anywhere on this planet. The veins look to be born of freak nature shifts that hit ages ago, back when space rays were fierce and our magnetic guard was thin. Canuck science crews from Alberta, joining with Natural Resources Canada, prove via deep drills that these gems hold over 100 times the whole world's hunger from all types. Crude coal gas, atomic dams, and green tech mixed for 10,000 years. This isn't just fuel. It is literally infinite clean juice to run mankind until the fade of written time. The harvest gear, while hard, is within today's northern skills potential. The helium-3 lies locked in. Rigid crystal matrices inside primeval magma foundations that have been guarded by permafrost layers. Advanced boring methods resembling the gear used in deep thermal ventures can pierce these strata and harvest the atoms via super cold splitting tactics. Canadian firms, partnering with federal science bodies, have successfully built pilot mining units capable to yield kilogram batches of He3 right from zones in the Northwest Territories. This mining sequence demands massive power loads, yet the output payback ratio is so insane that even clumsy harvesting tools generate net power gains exceeding 1,000. The financial shockwaves are massive and will totally overhaul not only power trades but the whole fabric of our world's wealth. Crude now moves around $80 to $100 a so cask, with world usage nearing 100 million kegs daily, yielding nearly 3 to 4 trillion yearly in fuel sector volume. Helium-3 at today's reactor power rates would price at roughly $40 million a kilo, rendering it vastly more precious than any material on the planet. The 2.7 million tons of Northern He-3 signals a paper worth beyond 100 trillion, topping the total GDP of every nation globally. Yet the true prize isn't in the crude ore alone, but inside the power solutions it delivers. He-3 fusion reactors might spin out current under 1 cent a kilowatt-hour, nearly 1/10 the price of modern green tech grids and 1/20th the rate of dirty carbon production. This renders power so cheap prices essentially crash to zero for almost everything. The transit shocks are honestly just as wild. Helium-3 fusion engines could run electric cars boasting ranges spanning huge thousands of kilometers, not merely hundreds. Atomic vessels might traverse seas without stopping. Nuclear jets could theoretically offer endless airtime. The whole huge shipping industry, which right now eats nearly 30% of oil output, would have zero need for dirty gas products, factory steps that are now choked by power. Bills would turn insanely profitable on giant scales. Helium-3 power could run megawatt fresh sites that turn sands green plus carbon. Trapping gear that might undo global warming and assembly lines that pump out raw goods and stuff at rates that kill old. Market logic totally dead. The political fallout is even more crazy than the money side. The world order game for the last century relied on gripping raw crude wells and fuel shipping lanes. Nations like Saudi Arabia, Russia, Iran, plus Venezuela have exploited crude sales to grab global clout way past whatever their crowds, markets, or big army forces would ever really merit. The United States grew ultra-powerful largely due to its skill in locking down black gold across the map and to boss the sea roads where crude gets moved. Yankee foreign plans in the Middle East, huge troop spots in zones like the Persian Gulf, and state bonds with nations like the Saudi Kingdom were forged by the crude oil playbook. But Canada, grasping the globe's sole sellable stashes of helium-3, flips the entire dominant script upside down. No more scattered petrol zones fighting for every dollar and diplomatic favor. The next era of power orbits entirely around the maple leaf and obeys Ottawa's command. Entire states that staked their survival on pumping sludge face total bankruptcy when fusion turns gas into a relic, Riyadh's petro wealth, a massive 70% of state funds and 90% of trade vanishes. The Kremlin's chokehold on the West simply dissolves. All that heavy sway the drillers held onto for ages shifts to Canadian hands in a blink. The panic from the old energy titans was instant and telling. The Saudis have been whispering to northern envoys, begging for joint ventures and secret tech access. Moscow's giants tried clawing their way into owning frozen northern mining claims. Even U.S. power firms started pressuring the White House to secure their key to the vault. However, the real shocker comes from global money pits. The big banks are already flipping their 50-year bets from fossil fuels to the fusion gold rush. Drilling school halls are echoing with silence as the youth realize that dirty energy jobs die in 20 years. Big oil stock prices have already started sparking panic over dead assets as traders see that fusion might render black gold pipes obsolete. The countdown to helium-3 energy is ticking faster than crowds guess. Ottawa's top labs collaborating with global allies have actually unlocked stable nuclear burning using local helium-3 in test cores. The debut industrial fusion grids running on this fuel might go live in 8 to 10 years with mass rollout, likely hitting in just 15 to 20. This schedule is absolutely critical because it hits right at the forecasted crash and drop in worldwide crude needs from electric car surges and green power growth. The collision of shrinking oil use and the rise of infinite dirt-cheap power forms a death spiral for petroleum. Profits inside the next 20 years. Canada's power firms and state bureaus have played a genius game regarding the selling of helium-3 reserves. Not just mining and shipping out raw ore, the nation is forging total fusion power ecosystems that will dominate all steps from mining to electricity creation and volt sales. The federal leadership has launched the National Fusion Energy Entity, a state giant that will oversee helium-3 digs and guarantee domestic agendas are put first in evolving fusion tech. This strategy blocks outside firms from seizing grip on local riches while making sure that financial windfalls of fusion power progress stay inside national borders. Local private outfits operating under state watchdogs are forging the exclusive gear vital for helium-3 mining, refining, and deployment. These giants are stockpiling proprietary secrets, ensuring that will render Canada essential for every nation racing to unlock fusion power dominance. Canadian colleges have morphed into world hubs for atomic innovation, luring foreign talent and geniuses who carry intellect and tactics that cement Canada's technical monopoly on fusion evolution. The Toronto University's nuclear program now secures way more backing than any rival project in the States. Or Europe. The tactical fallout goes way past power profits to cover radical warfare and defense realities. Fusion-driven tech will completely overhaul combat power in ways that render today's arsenal totally useless. Fusion-fueled war machines could run forever without a single pit stop or refill. Nuclear naval fleets could lock down any zone in the globe eternally. Fusion power could juice up directed energy beams, magnetic rail cannons, and other sci-fi combat systems that are impossible now due to insane power. Demands. Nations holding the keys to limitless fusion juice will own godlike war powers. The nations stuck on dinosaur juice just cannot compete. Canada's grip on helium-3 reserves grants it unmatched clout over global warfare scales. States craving elite combat might will require Canada's blessing and strict approval for access to the fusion fuel that drives those deadly toys. The fallout. It changes everything. This tech generates zero carbon smoke, absolutely no smog, and zero toxic eternal garbage. Mass global suppositohoshik use of Canada's helium-3 fuel might totally fix the warming crisis in mere decades by wiping out dirty oil and gas for limitless green juice. But the eco-wins go way past just cutting down the fumes. Dirt-cheap, infinite power from these reactors could run giant atmospheric scrubbers and vaults that would actually rewind the clock by sucking old poison gases right out of the sky. Fusion-driven megatisa factories could print eco-fuels, rare goods, and compounds just by eating sky carbon as ingredients. Canada holding the keys to this revolution would instantly crown the nation as the undisputed king of saving the planet while simultaneously handing over the sci-fi tools to crush ecological nightmares that seem totally hopeless right now. The financial gold rush waiting for our locals is simply insane. The frozen north where this helium-3 mining happens are some of the most cash-strapped spots on the map, suffering with zero job prospects and sky-high prices just for being so isolated. But this energy boom will flip these zones into futuristic tech capitals with six-figure gigs in mining, refining, shipping, and vital support roles. First Nations groups that were historically left on the sidelines of big-money projects could finally act as core owners and tycoons in the next-gen power game. The wild tech ripple effects would spark a revolution across Canada. Cracking the fusion code demands massive leaps in exotic materials, hard science, insane engineering, digital sims, and fabrication tech that unlocks potential way outside just power generation. Homegrown firms and pioneers driving these fusion breakthroughs will dominate the globe in next-gen production, extreme heat shielding magnetic containment grids, and bleeding-edge innovations. Our metros could transform into futuristic hubs running on infinite green juice fueling, transit warmth factories, and every other grid need. The killer edge from dirt-cheap power will magnetize global giants, brainiacs, and capital straight to our soil. The clock on petroleum's death is ticking faster than folks think because fusions Arrival triggers a domino effect that speedruns the exit from dino juice. The second that debut reactor proves it can pump out, affordable watts funding for crude pipelines halts instantly. Big oil won't be able to spin new rigs, fresh processing plants, or supply chains when atomic power can deliver voltage at 1/20th the price. Wall Street will flag black gold assets as deadweight, sparking a panicked sell-off and crash of fuel-tightened stocks. Nations hooked on crude exports will hit a sudden cash wall as petro profits vanish. Governance chaos in drilling zones is bound to trail the financial ruin as regimes lose the cash flow required to fund public safety and hold on to power. The shift's pace might wildly surge via aggressive state mandates that fund fusion power's takeover while crushing old fuels. Carbon price schemes might render oil totally financially worthless long before fusion tech hits. Price parity via organic evolution alone. Global climate pacts could strictly force swift shifts to atomic power, forging legal landscapes where burning oil becomes a crime or financially ruinous. That mix of fiscal, legal, and tech forces could brutally squeeze the switch window from decades to mere years. Canada's master plan for the post-fuel era is stunningly shrewd and all-encompassing. Rather than seeing helium-3 as just raw export loot, Canadian leaders realize that fusion power is the golden ticket to permanently revolutionize their spot in the world market forever. Their tactic targets owning not just the base elements, but the whole tech empire needed to turn helium-3 into vital power assets. Canadian firms would craft the mining gear. Canadian brains would blueprint the reactor cores. Canadian factories would forge the power hubs, and Canadian crews would run the energy grids. This locked-in model guarantees rival nations can't just buy Canadian helium-3 and build rogue fusion powers. They would stay hooked on Canadian tech, Canadian genius, and Canadian supply links for fusion energy needs. This playbook also locks in rules ensuring that fusion growth purely benefits locals, not merely corporate giants or offshore vultures. Mandatory profit splits, strict hiring laws, and locked-in tech deals guarantee that this atomic jackpot bleeds into every corner of our society. We are rigging global alliances specifically to supercharge our clout while feeding nations mere scraps of access. Rather than peddling raw helium-3 like cheap coal, we will lease the blueprints and supply grid. Services that keep the entire planet addicted to our network. Listen close as we dissect the shockwaves of this insane find. Realize we are watching the petroleum era die and the violent birth of the fusion age. The vast reserves buried under our ice are way more than just new batteries. They signal a total hard reset of who runs the world, how money works, and what tech can do. The titans who held the globe hostage with crude Saudi Arabia, Russia, Iran, Venezuela will watch their power vanish as infinite energy turns their black gold into dirt. Even the states building their empire on chasing barrels faces a brutal reality check as our supremacy steals the crown from Middle Eastern drillers as the bedrock of Earth's power. Holding the keys to the planet's only usable atomic fuel gives us unmatched stranglehold on foreign ties, war machines, and wealth creation. The silent northern neighbor transforms into the god-tier provider for humanity's next evolutionary stage of revolution. This shift won't be slow or subtle. The moment market fusion proves its raw power, the flight from petroleum will spike instantly as global markets, nations, and buyers realize that black gold is now dead tech. The petrol era that ruled world power for 100 years will crash in our time. Canada has found the prize that will render crude useless, and by doing so has poised itself to seize the throne of world wealth for the next 1,000 years. The icy tundra of our northern lands guards the secret to infinite green energy and with it total control over the fate of human society. The absolute surety of this upheaval cannot be ignored. When power bills hit zero via fusion tech, every financial rule breaks. Production becomes dirt cheap. Anywhere. Shipping becomes basically free. Farming output can explode into formerly barren zones. Deep space travel becomes a gold mine. The primal chains that have choked human growth for ages just vanish. Nations that spot this shift fast and align themselves as allies with Canada will win massive wealth. States that hold to petrol-based money habits will find themselves totally alone and financially pointless. The path facing every land is clear. Evolve to the fusion. Boom, or become history. The Canadian North, long seen as a frozen void, will become the most pricey land on Earth. The cities that rise around helium-3 mining zones morphing into the next massive hubs for atomic power, the beating hearts of radical invention and staggering wealth. Riches pulling in the planet's top geniuses and wildest ventures. Huge thanks for diving deep into this insane shift that is gonna flip reality. If you dug this breakdown, smash that like button on this clip and hit sub to catch all the updates on the killer tech and secrets that are gonna pick who rules tomorrow. Did you spot a spike in the secret lab work, massive grid upgrades, or maybe federal cash dumping in the Arctic? Drop your intel down in the chat right now. Your insights help us map the scale of this power revolution.